On the dusty world of Zyrel, deep in the far side of the galactic rim, there lived an alien woman named Yura. Her people were called the Drawl, a proud and tall race known for their bright feathers, clean scales, and soft, sweet scent. Did not shine like the others. Her feathers were dull, her scent was thick with the smell of coal and iron, and her skin was often covered in dust from long hours in the mining pits. She lived in Sector 12, the lowest part of the colony, where the poorest Drawl worked. Every morning, she woke up before the sun rays touched the cliffs and made her way down into the mines. She worked harder than anyone else. She pulled heavy carts, cleaned blocked tunnels, and helped new workers learn the safe paths. But even with all that, the others never saw her. They saw her dirt, her smell, her broken nails, and her worn-out boots. Not her effort, not her kindness. The male Drawl, tall with shimmering wings and polished skin, often laughed when she walked past. The dirt follows her like a shadow. One said, "Even the wind runs from her smell." Another joked, "Why, I are a herd." At all, she kept her head down. She smiled sometimes, but only when no one could see. She had learned that no matter how many hours she worked or how much she gave, she would never be enough in their eyes. At night, she sat alone outside her small shelter. The stars above Zyrel were bright and wide. Sometimes she looked up and whispered, "Maybe somewhere out there I'm not ugly." Then she would fall asleep with her arms around her knees, and the ground cold beneath her. But all of that began to change. One normal afternoon, a strange sound echoed from the sky. It wasn't a storm. It was smoother, quieter, like a hum from a deep machine. Everyone in the colony looked up as a ship came down through the clouds. It was not Drawl-made. It was smaller, boxy, and its engines glowed blue. It landed far from the city, just near the edge of the mines. A human ship, many Drawl whispered to each other. "Why are humans here? They must be lost. Don't go near them. They touch things they shouldn't." Yura had heard about humans in stories, small, soft-skinned creatures from a death world called Earth. Many believed they were wild and dangerous. Some even said they were slow and smelled strange. But she didn't care what others said. Something inside her pulled her to look closer. A few days passed, and the human came into the mining sector. He was tall for a human, with short brown hair and clothes full of tools. His name was Aaron. Came with a scanner and a data pad and walked through the pits like he was studying them. He didn't look scared. He looked curious. The male Drawl didn't talk to him. They watched from a distance and kept their hands clean. They said, "Let the human poke at the rocks. Leave soon enough." But Yura didn't stay away. One afternoon, while fixing a broken cart near the edge of a tunnel, she saw him trying to restart an old drilling bot. The machine kept blinking red and buzzing. He sighed and kicked the side gently. "Come on, work with me," he mumbled. "YIRA." Stepped closer. "The fuel line's cracked," she said softly. "It leaks. That's why it shuts down." Aaron turned. His eyes met hers. He didn't step back. He didn't cover his nose. He didn't make a face. "Thank you," he said with a small smile. "You work here?" She nodded. "Since I was young." He looked impressed. "That explains it. You know this place better than anyone." Her heart skipped. No one had ever said something like that to her. "My name's Aaron," he said, holding out his hand. YIRA looked at it, sure for a moment, then shook it gently. "Yura." They talked for a bit. She helped him fix the bot. He listened carefully to everything she said. And when they were done, he said, "You're smart. Why aren't you leading the team?" She looked away. "They don't see me like that." He frowned but didn't push. "Well, I do." Yura didn't answer. She just watched him walk away. The next day she saw him again, and the next. Each time he greeted her kindly. Each time he asked for her thoughts. And each time she felt something strange, warmth in her chest that she hadn't felt in years. Some male Drawl began to whisper. Why is the human talking to her? Doesn't he know she's... But Aaron didn't care. He wasn't listening. To them, he was only listening to YIR. By the end of the week, they were sitting together during rest breaks. They shared small meals. They laughed. He told her about earth trees that danced in the wind, oceans that went forever, animals that howled at night. She listened like a child hearing stories for the first time. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, Aaron looked at her and said, "Yura, you don't need to hide." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He pointed gently to her hands. "You always cover them with gloves. Your hair's always tucked away. Your eyes always look down. You don't have to do that." Yura stayed quiet. Then she asked, "Why are you kind to me?" His answer came slow but strong. "Because you're worth it." No one had ever said those words to her, and for the first time in her life, Yura believed they might be true. After that evening, something in Yura began to shift. The words "you're worth it" stayed in her mind like a melody she couldn't forget. Every time she repeated them quietly to herself, her chest felt warm. No one had ever said such words to her before, not her family, not the other workers, not the leaders of the mine. Only the human Aaron. He returned every day, not as a guest, but like someone who belonged. Then though the drawl didn't welcome him, he kept walking through the colony, talking to workers, helping repair broken systems, and asking questions. His presence made others uncomfortable, especially when he was seen walking beside Yura. Some male drawl whispered louder now. "Doesn't he know she's lowborn? Humans have strange taste. We'll get tired of her soon." But Aaron never looked tired of her. In fact, he seemed more relaxed around Yura than anyone else. And she, who had spent her life hiding behind shadows and dirt, found herself laughing more. Not often, not loudly, but enough that others noticed. One day, Aaron asked her to guide him through a dangerous part of the mine. It had been closed off for years due to unstable walls. Even the leaders didn't send anyone there anymore. But Aaron believed something valuable might still be down there. Yira agreed. Not for glory, not for praise. She just wanted to help him. They entered the old tunnel early in the morning, carrying lights and gear, as the air was heavy with dust. Sharp rocks stuck out from the walls, and old support beams creaked with every step. But Yura moved with skill. She knew where to step, where to duck, and where to pause. "You've been here before," Aaron said, carefully following her. "Many times," she answered. "Before it was shut down, I used to fix the deeper machines." They found a broken drill buried under rocks. While Aaron checked its data port, Yura noticed cracks above the ceiling. "We need to move," she said quickly. "This area is about to fall." But it was too late. With a loud snap, part of the ceiling gave way. Rocks tumbled down. Yura pushed Aaron aside just in time, but her leg got trapped under a heavy beam. Pain shot through her body. She gasped. Struggling to free herself, Aaron rushed back to her side. "Don't move. I'll get this off you." "No," she cried. "Go. Not safe." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." With all his strength, he pulled at the beam. His hands bled, his muscles strained. Dust filled the air. Finally, after many tries, he shifted the weight just enough for Yura to pull her leg free. She cried out as pain rushed through her. But she could move. "Lean on me," Aaron said, wrapping her arm around his shoulder. They slowly made their way out of the collapsing tunnel. When they finally reached the open light, both fell to the ground, breathing hard. Workers saw them and rushed over. Some helped. Others only stared. But what none of them missed was the way Aaron had carried Yura. Not with disgust, but with care. The leaders called a meeting the next day. They didn't like the human entering closed areas. They didn't like that Yura had gone with him. But when they tried to scold her, Aaron stood up. If it weren't for her, he said firmly, I'd be crushed under rocks right now. She disobeyed orders, one of the elders said. Then so did I, Aaron replied. Punish me too. The room fell silent. No one had ever defended Yura like that before. After the meeting, some workers began treating her differently. One or two even greeted her with small nods. Others still turned away, but Yura didn't mind. The world didn't have to love her. She just needed to know that she mattered, and with Aaron beside her, she was starting to believe it, as her leg healed. Aaron brought her tools to fix, books to read, and strange fruits from his ship. They talked about life beyond Zyrel. It's about stars, oceans, animals, and earth cities that touched the clouds. I wish I could see it, she whispered once. Maybe one day, he smiled. You'd like the forests? They shared simple moments repairing. A drone, watching the sunset, laughing over a burned meal. Nothing grand, but all of it felt new to Yura, like she was waking from a long dream. One night while walking near the edge of the cliffs, Yura asked him, "Why do you stay here?" "The colony doesn't want you. They don't treat you well." Aaron looked up at the stars. "I've seen many places. I met all kinds of people. But you." He turned to her. "You're the strongest person I've met. You didn't let the world break you. I stay because I want to learn from you." Yura felt her eyes sting. She blinked quickly, looking away. "You give too much credit." "I don't give enough," he said softly. That night, for the first time, Yura stood in front of her mirror without covering her face. She saw the marks, the lines, the tired eyes, and she didn't look away. She stood taller. She didn't try to hide. Because maybe, just maybe, she was more than the dirt others saw. Maybe she was someone who could be seen, who could be heard, and who could be enough. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between Yura and Aaron grew stronger. She no longer avoided the paths where others walked. She walked beside him through the colony without lowering her eyes. When others stared or whispered, she kept moving. Forward, though some still judged, a few began to look at her differently. A miner named Jellic once asked for her help fixing a broken power line. She was surprised, but helped without asking questions. Later that day, another worker gave her a clean cloth and said, "Thanks for what you did in the old tunnels." It wasn't much. But for Yura, these small acts felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Meanwhile, Aaron continued to support her in every way. He taught her how to read human repair codes, how to use a new hand scanner, and even showed her a tool from Earth called a socket wrench. Yura was quick to learn. She remembered everything. Sometimes she even improved. The designs herself. "You should be leading a team," Aaron said more than once. She smiled, but her voice stayed quiet. "No one would follow me." "Then they don't deserve you," he answered. One morning, a loud noise shook the colony. Alarms rang out and red lights flashed. Yura rushed outside and saw smoke rising from the east side of the mine. The power core had overheated and exploded, causing a small fire and damaging several support towers. Teams scrambled to respond. Workers ran with fire foam and drones buzzed in the sky, trying to stop the flames. If it fell, it would crush half the storage field. "They're not moving fast enough," Aaron said, watching from a control station. "We need to cut the tower down before it falls the wrong way," Yura said quickly. "But the command team isn't giving orders?" Aaron looked at her. "Then you give them." She froze. "They won't listen." He touched her arm gently. "You've been here your whole life. You know this place better than anyone. They need you now." Yura hesitated only for a second. Then she grabbed a cum from the table and spoke into it. "This is Yura. Clear zones 4 to 7. I need 2 cutters at the tower base. Prepare cables to pull it away from the storage." Field. There was silence on the channel. Then a voice replied, "Copy that." Yura ran toward the danger with Aaron right behind her. Smoke stung her eyes and the heat made it hard to breathe, but she didn't stop. She reached the tower and helped tie the cutting cables herself. The structure groaned, ready to fall. Sparks danced in the air. "Cut it now," she shouted. The beam was sliced clean as the tower fell sideways, missing the storage units by just a few meters. The ground shook, but no one was hurt. Cheers broke out from the workers nearby. Many looked at her with surprise. Others clapped her. On the back, no one laughed at her smell. No one mocked her dust-covered clothes. In that moment, they saw her. Through the fire was gone, and the damage was under control. The mine leader, Elder Thoric, called for an open meeting. The workers gathered in the square, tired but safe. Elder Thoric stood on the platform and looked out at the crowd. "We owe thanks to many," he began, "but above all, to Yura, for taking command when we hesitated. She prevented a major loss today." Some of the crowd clapped again. Others just nodded, but no one objected. Thoric looked at her directly. "You've proven your skill and bravery. If you accept, I'd like to offer you the role of operations assistant. Yura didn't speak at first. The words felt heavy, like a dream she had never allowed herself to dream. Aaron stepped forward. You earned this, he whispered. She nodded slowly. I accept. After the meeting, several male workers approached her with friendly words. One even said, You've changed. But Yura knew the truth. She hadn't changed. She had always been this way. The only difference now was that someone had finally seen her. As the days passed, she settled into her new role. She assigned tasks, solved problems, and made work safer for others. She didn't speak loudly, but when she spoke, others listened. Aaron stayed by her side, not as a protector, but as a partner. He followed her lead during mine checks, helped her organize tools, and even cleaned old gear while humming Strange Earth songs one evening. They sat together on a hill outside the colony, watching the sky turn gold and pink. I never thought I'd be here, Yura said quietly. Not like this. Aaron smiled. What changed? You, she answered. You saw me before anyone else did? He looked at her for a long moment. I didn't change who you were. I just reminded you of what you already are. The wind carried the scent of metal and stone, the same one Yura had known all her life. But now, she didn't hate it. It was a part of her story, her strength. She wasn't clean like the others. She wasn't soft or shining, but she was brave, smart, and steady. And finally, she was starting to believe she belonged. Yura had always known the mines like the back of her hand. Now, as the new operations assistant, she was trusted to lead and plan. Her workdays were full, but no longer lonely. Workers came to her with questions. Engineers asked her opinion. Even the older male supervisors, those who once looked past her now, gave respectful nods when she passed, though her skin was still marked from years in the pits and her scent still carried hints of metal and dust. No one turned away from her. Anymore? Not because she had changed, but because they had finally opened their eyes. And beside her, always was Aaron. The human didn't seek praise or power. He still wore the same utility jumpsuit, still carried a pack full of tools, and still fixed broken drones like it was the most important job in the galaxy. When others ignored a flickering light or a jammed loader, Aaron was the one who crouched beside it and made it work again. But when he looked at Yura, it was with quiet pride. Not for what she had become, but for what she had always been. One morning, a new transport ship landed in the colony square. Came from the Central Drawl Council. Word spread fast. The council was sending inspectors, officials, and a commander named Sarvik. He was known for his high rank and polished appearance. His feathers were glossy, his cloak long, and his eyes sharp like blades. He stepped off the ship with 2 guards and scanned the crowd. When he spotted Yura, his eyes narrowed slightly. You were the one called Yura? He asked. She nodded. Yes, I've heard strange things about you, he said. You led a command during the fire. You fixed tunnels. And you, he paused, work closely with the human. His name is Aaron, Yura said calmly. He's helped this colony more than most ever did. Sarvik tilted his head. Council wants a report, and they will not be pleased to hear a human is guiding one of our own. Yura stood straight. He doesn't guide me. We work together. Sarvik gave a short laugh. We'll see how long that lasts. He walked away, his cloak sweeping behind him. For the next few days, Sarvik and his team watched everything. Asked questions, checked records, and made notes. Sometimes they followed Aaron around. Sometimes they asked workers about why IRA. Some were honest, some were quiet. Others acted unsure, afraid of what speaking up might cost them. Aaron noticed the tension and pulled Yura aside one evening. They're looking for a reason to remove you, he said. Or maybe worse, send you away. Yura looked out across the hills. They never liked people like me. I was nothing to them before. And now that I have a voice, it scares them. Aaron frowned. You're not going to run, are you? No, she said. I've spent too long hiding. Not anymore. The next day, a loud alarm rang across the colony. A mining drone had malfunctioned. in the deep shaft and started a chain reaction. The tunnel was filling with gas. 3 workers were trapped. Everyone panicked. The safety system was failing, and the support team hesitated to go in. "I'll go," Yura said at once. Aaron grabbed his gear. "We go together." They entered the tunnel fast, sealing their masks tight. The air inside was thick and hot. Visibility was poor. Through the noise and smoke, they could hear distant shouts. "Over here," her voice cried. They found the trapped workers behind a fallen wall, coughing and scared. Yura used her scanner and saw the weak point. "We cut through here," she told Aaron. While he used a laser tool to slice the metal, Yura kept the workers calm. "You're going to be fine. We're getting you out." The wall came loose. They pulled the workers out one by one. But just as they turned to leave, the gas chamber burst. A metal beam swung down. Aaron pushed one of the workers aside, but the beam struck his shoulder, knocking him back. "Aaron," Yura shouted, running to him. His arm was bleeding, and he winced in pain, but smiled weakly. "Told you, we go together." With help from the others, Yura carried him out of the tunnel. The emergency doors closed behind them. Gas hissed as the system finally locked down. Outside, a crowd waited. When they saw Yura leading the group and Aaron limping beside her, they burst into cheers. Sarvik stepped forward with a cold face. "You risked much." "We saved lives," Yura said. "That's our job." He didn't reply. Later that evening, the council released a message. It stated that Yura would remain in her role and that the colony had shown unusual but effective methods of leadership. It was not a full praise, but it was a step. YIRA stood with Aaron on the hill again, watching the sky. "They tried to find something wrong," she said, "but all they saw was the truth," Aaron chuckled. "They didn't know how bright you shine when you're under pressure." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "You believed in me before anyone else did?" He shook his head. "You didn't need belief. You needed a mirror." She smiled. "Thank you for being that mirror." They sat in silence, side by side. Not as outcasts, not as strange ones, but as 2 beings who saw beyond dirt, scent, or rules. And in that quiet moment, Yura finally knew something for sure. She was no longer invisible. The days after the gas tunnel rescue were different. No one ignored Yura now. The same workers who once whispered and laughed behind her back now stood when she entered a room. They asked for her advice. They listened when she gave instructions. Even Elder Thoric, the colony's highest voice, nodded respectfully when she spoke. Yura didn't brag. She didn't act proud. But deep inside, she felt something she had never known before: peace. Not because everyone suddenly loved her, but because she no longer needed their approval to know her own worth. And beside her, as always, was Aaron. His injured shoulder was healing slowly, and she checked on him every day, refused special care even when she insisted. "I've had worse," he would say with a crooked smile. Got him fresh wraps, warm broth, and once even a sweet mineral cake from a small vendor. "You didn't have to do all this," he said gently one evening. She looked at him. "You didn't have to save a worker from a falling beam either, but you did." He grinned. "Fair point." They sat near the edge of the colony wall, watching a transport ship leave. The dust trail glowed orange in the setting light. "The council left," Aaron said. "Yes," Yura nodded, "but they'll keep watching. They never forget." "Let them," he replied. "They can't unsee what you've done." Meanwhile, the mines were growing again. New tunnels opened. More workers arrived. Equipment was upgraded. Yura's leadership made the system run better than before. Injuries dropped. Delays became rare. A small celebration was planned by the workers. Nothing grand, just shared food, music, and glowing lights along the main corridor. Yura was invited to speak. She stood at the front, heart pounding, looking at the crowd. Old faces, new faces. Aaron sitting in the front row, smiling. "I don't know the right words," she began slowly, "but I want to say thank you." The crowd stayed quiet, listening. "Thank you for letting me try," for seeing me, and for showing that even those who come from dirt, who carry the weight of old judgments, can rise." There was silence, then applause, honest, loud, and strong. After the gathering, one of the younger miners approached her shyly. "Chief Yura?" the girl asked. Yura smiled. "Just Yura. Can I be like you?" the girl asked. Yura knelt down. "You don't have to be like me. Just be strong, kind, and never let others decide your worth." The girl nodded, eyes wide. Aaron stood behind her, watching with quiet pride. Later, as they walked back to their shelters, he asked, "Do you still think you're just the girl from the lower pits?" Yura smiled softly. "No, I think. I was never just anything. I just didn't know it yet." Suddenly, a new alert buzzed through the colony, not from inside but from orbit. A communication pod landed quickly. A message appeared on the colony's main screen. "Unknown fleet detected. Incoming ships approaching outer perimeter." Fear spread fast. Some thought it was pirates. Others feared a rogue faction. The colony had no weapons-only workers, engineers, and a few defense drones. Elder Thoric called for calm. "They are not answering hails. All signals blocked. They're heading straight for us." Aaron frowned. "That's not a good sign." Yura turned to the screen. The ships were large, sharp-edged, and moved with military speed. "What do we do?" someone asked. Yura stepped forward. "We prepare." She and Aaron quickly gathered teams. Old defense systems were powered on. Drone batteries were checked. Walls were sealed tight. Non-workers were sent to safe tunnels. "We don't have much," Yura said, "but we'll protect what we've built." Aaron stayed close. "You give the orders. I'll make sure they're followed." As the ships grew closer, a message finally came through. It wasn't friendly. "Surrender your supplies. Surrender your tech. Resist and be erased." The colony stood quiet. "What do they want from us?" the young guard asked. Aaron replied, "Everything." Yura's voice stayed calm. "Then we give them nothing." A plan was formed quickly. Yura knew the mines better than anyone. She marked tunnel exits that could be collapsed to trap enemies. She knew which rooms could be hidden where heat wouldn't show on scanners. They turned the colony into a puzzle of smoke and shadows. The invading ships landed just outside the perimeter. Metal doors opened. Tall armored beings stepped out cold. Eyes, sharp voices, and blasters ready. But when they moved in, they found empty halls, blocked tunnels, false signals. Aaron led a surprise ambush using drone swarms. Sparks flew. Enemy fired back, but every trap slowed them. Yura guided. Workers through hidden paths, leading them to strike and vanish. The invaders thought the colony would be easy. They saw simple miners, old machines, and no strong army. They expected fear. They expected surrender. But they did not expect Yura. She did not lead with weapons. She led with knowledge, with clever plans, and with the help of those who believed in her. The invaders moved through the outer corridors quickly, but their steps slowed the deeper they went. The lights flickered. Maps became useless. Traps had been set not to kill, but to confuse and block. Why? Ira and Aaron worked together in the control room. They watched through old cameras and guided the teams. They're splitting into smaller groups. Aaron said. Good, Yura replied. We'll break them apart. She gave quick orders. Lock Section 12. Open gas vents in Corridor 7. Start backup noise systems to mislead them. Every plan used parts of the mine she knew best. She remembered every hidden turn, every echo chamber, every weak floor that could be used to collapse under heavy armor. The enemy started losing direction. Their messages broke apart. Some shouted at shadows. Some fired at moving walls. But the worst came when they tried to reach the heart of the mine. The main energy core, that's where Yura waited. With only a small team of workers and a few drones, she stood ready at the entrance to the chamber. Her hands were steady, even though her heart raced. Beside her, Aaron checked the old defense panel. They're almost here, he said. You still want to face them yourself? Yura nodded. They want to take this place. They'll have to look me in the eyes first. Aaron gave a proud smile. Then let's make it hard for them. When the invaders reached the chamber door, they stopped. One of them stepped forward. His voice echoed through a speaker. You are not soldiers, he said. You are workers. Step aside, and we will spare you. Yura stepped into the light. No, this is our home. You will not take it. The leader stared at her. You smell of dirt. You are not even worthy to speak. But she did not look away. Then let the dirt rise and bury you. With a signal from her hand, the ground beneath the invaders gave way just as planned. The floor collapsed into a lower shaft filled with thick smoke and traps. Alarms rang. Lights turned red. The invaders screamed as they fell into confusion. Yira and her team moved fast. They sealed the doors behind them and activated the emergency systems. The core remained safe. The invaders were trapped below. Outside, the rest of the colony pushed back. Guided by Aaron's voice and Yara's maps, workers fought with tools, drones, and grit. They used nets, fire foam, and stunners. What they lacked in weapons, they made up for with teamwork and knowledge. After many hours, the enemy sent a message. We retreat. This colony is not worth the cost. Their ships lifted off, damaged and slow. Cheers filled the colony as the danger passed. Families came out of hiding. Workers hugged each other. Some cried. Some laughed. And in the center of it all stood Yura covered in dust. Oil on her arms, eyes tired but bright, Aaron walked up to her and held out a small metal piece. A gift. He said. She looked at it. It was a tiny piece from one of the drones. He had carved a shape into it, a symbol that meant leader in human writing. She held it close. I don't deserve this alone, she said. Yes, you do, he replied. This happened because of you. Elder Thoric approached with the other leaders. He bowed his head. You've done what no one else could, Thoric said. You saved us. You saved this home. He paused, then added, I was wrong about. Yura shook her head gently. You were never looking. He gave a sad nod. I am now. Days later, the colony repaired what had been damaged. New safety systems were added. The workers painted a symbol on the mine wall, a symbol of unity and strength. Below it, they wrote a new name, Yura's Wall. Tourists would one day visit. Children would hear the story. But to Yura, it was never about praise. It was about the simple fact that she had finally been seen. One quiet evening, she and Aaron walked along the cliff again. The sky above Zyrel was full of stars. You could leave now, she said. You've done enough, Aaron smiled. I could. But where would I go that has someone like you? Yura looked away, but her smile grew. You're not afraid of dirt, are you? I'm afraid of nothing except losing good people, he said. They stood there for a long time. No titles, no orders. Just a woman once called worthless and a human who knew better. The world had changed, and so had Yura. She was not clean. She was not perfect. But she was brave. She was strong. And she was finally loved, and not for how she looked, but for who she truly was.